Welcome back. It's us again.
Hi.
Hi. We're here. This has been such a fun morning. It's going so quickly. I'm Chris Freytag. You guys know that by now. But in case for some reason you're only tuning in now, we've got our friend Sam Cam. We've got Miss Patty Knutson over here.
Hi, everybody.
And we're here to discuss that fun subject of menopause, the M word.
The M word.
The M word, the dreaded M word. It is messy. We are here to talk about it for 30 minutes, which honestly is not enough time because there's so much to talk about. We'll take your questions. We are not doctors.
Right.
We are just two females over here who have gone through menopause. We can talk about our experience. We can talk about some of the things that we have done or not done. I have done a lot of research on it, spent a lot of time reading books, talking to doctors about this. I'll do the best I can. But again, just remember, this is just us sharing our advice. Sam's over there absorbing it all.
Absolutely. She's taking notes.
Because I wish when I was 30, someone would have told me what menopause was.
Right.
I didn't even know what menopause was.
Right.
Till I was really in like my mid 40s. I'm like, wait, what's going to happen to me? But first and foremost, if you haven't spent any time with our lovely Patty Knutson, Patty's been a friend of mine for 25 years. I started teaching at the same club that she was managing 25 years ago. I love her to death. She has been teaching group fitness as long as I have, if not longer, 30 something years.
Yeah, probably, let's see, it's 28.
Yeah.
28 years.
I started in 1987 or somewhere in there. She is just an amazing instructor, an amazing cuer, an amazing motivator, but also an amazing person in her heart. You're just such a good person. I just love her.
Thank you.
So we're so happy to have her on our team. She is also through menopause. So just tell them a little bit about yourself. I mean, obviously, I know your kids, I know your grandkids, but tell them a little bit about how you got in fitness and 1 minute speech.
Okay. Well, I've been married for 37 years. No, it's 36 years. Sorry. I have 3 amazing children, and I have 4 grandbabies that I'm having so much fun with. I mean, if you would have told me how fun it was to be a Grammy, I'm enjoying it so much. And I do a lot of what I do now to keep myself young and keep myself fit so I can run around with them and I can pick them up and I can throw them and I can go down the slides with them. And it's super, super important to me. I started fitness I was pregnant with my 3rd child and I was going to classes and the instructor said, hey, how about you start teaching? I was like, really? Okay. What do you think? And so that's kind of how I got going with it. And I have never looked back. And I was lucky enough, and let's see, I'm trying to think of when that was. I was able to turn it into a career. And I got my management job, and I love that. And I just retired from that last year. So now I'm just having fun being a Grammy and teaching, and I love teaching here, and I love our community that we have. I'm just super, super grateful for it all.
So the minute she retired from her management job, I was like, Patty!
It literally was like the next day.
I'm like, okay, can you please be a Get Healthy UTV, trainer? And she's like, well, I have to get everything organized. I'm like, let me help you.
Yeah. She was relentless.
I was relentless.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because you are awesome. Patty's also having a big birthday. Come on, we don't care, right? In a couple weeks, she's turning the big 6-0.
Big 6-0. I can't even wrap my brain around it.
I know.
60. I remember my grandparents turning 60 and thinking like how old that was, you know, and
now
we
are.
That's me.
I know. I turned 57 on Monday, and you're turning 60. And so, yes, we've both been through this crazy thing called menopause. So let's dig into it, literally. I'm sure questions are coming in. Yes, no, not yet?
Not quite yet. Everyone is just happy to hear about it.
Patty went through menopause early. I went through menopause at 57. It was probably about 52. 52, 53. I guess 52. So that's maybe earlier. 50 to 52, I think, is pretty common. You said you went through.
I was about 47 or 48 when I went through mine.
So you went early.
I went early, and I didn't, honestly, at the time, we never talked about it. I wasn't sure what was going on with my body.
And you have sisters, but your mother died when you were young.
My mother died when I was real young, and she actually had gone through menopause already, and she died when she was 42. So
that's crazy.
It's funny. My sisters and I really never talked about that. They were, because I think you do kind of talk to them and kind of figure out but it just was never discussed. It's just never discussed. And so when things started happening to me, I was like, what is going on with my body?
So all of the symptoms and things that start to happen to you, they kind of, for some people, it's like a storm that just hits you on one day. And for others, like myself, it kind of just starts happening where you're like, I'm so hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Why I'm on fire? And you have these like waves of hot flashes, or you start having night sweats where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're dripping in sweat. And then you have to change your clothes. And, you might have some times where you feel like your brain is mush, or you might be on edge a little bit. I mean, there's so many, poor sleep, everything. There's so many symptoms of menopause. We could list them and it would take 2 pages to list them. So the things that you feel in perimenopause, which by the way, perimenopause is leading into menopause. It can be 2 years of feeling these symptoms. It can be 10 years. It is it's kind of like it's very gray. Like, are you in perimenopause? Are you not? True menopause is when you have gone without a period for a full year. And like for myself, it was like I would go for 10 months and then I'd get it. Then I'd go for 11 months. Then I would get it. I'd be like, oh my God, what is going on?
You're so close.
You're so close, but yet so far away. For other women who have maybe had like a hysterectomy early or something, or they don't get their periods regularly, it's very confusing. Like, when am I through it? But once you have been to the point where you have no period for a full year, then it's, you're out, you're done. It's like menopause is actually like a day, and then it's the day, and then you're postmenopausal. And what I noticed postmenopausal is the symptoms started to subside. Now, I just mustered through. I, was able to kind of make my way through, as I know you were.
I did too.
And it was like, I just kind of I was aware of my symptoms. I was doing everything I could to manage it mentally. I remember going to my OB at the time, and she said, if you are not okay mentally, like if you think, she asked me a bunch of questions, she goes, then we need to talk about alternatives. But if you think that you're gonna make it through, make it through. So that's how I kind of survived through it. Post-menopausal, though interestingly, I was just telling you, I looked into hormones. So I have a lot of information about hormones if people want to talk about it. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I can give you my experience. But I think the big thing that constantly is the guiding light, though, is how you take care of yourself, how you eat,
Bottom line,
how you exercise, what you do for mental health. Those 3 things make such a difference. And people will say, well, it's my hormones. It's my hormones, so I'm just destined to be like this. But, yes, menopause weight gain happens, but it can happen because your insulin and your estrogen are out of whack. And if your insulin, anytime your insulin is out of whack, it is just a living nightmare. And inflammation in the body sets the stage for weight gain, diabetes, like dementia, like everything. So it's a really big deal, and you have to be really very mindful as we age of what we're putting in our mouths and how we're taking care of ourselves mentally and physically.
A lot of self-care too. I mean, I think it's important, and I've always kind of been in tune to my body and kind of what's going on with it. I just always have, and I've always been really regular with my cycles, so I was always thankful for that, because it wasn't really a guessing game for me. But I think you just have to be in tune to how you're feeling throughout the day.
So your hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone all will fluctuate. A lot of women will go and get their hormones tested. There is something called the Dutch test, which is a urine test that you can do at home to get your hormones tested. And I have heard that it's a very worthwhile test. I haven't done the Dutch test, but I have heard it's a very worthwhile test. I've done the blood test where they've drawn my blood and then told me where my hormone levels are, and that's also an option. Some people do both, just kind of to get a little bit. And just like anything else in our bodies, your hormones fluctuate. So the day that you take the test, your hormone might be a little different the next day. That's the other thing that makes this all so nebulous. Any questions yet?
So she asks in preface that this might be a little awkward to answer. For me, her sex drive went way down. How do you fix this? Did you experience this?
Well, we got a bunch of men in the room.
I know.
as filming. I don't know how you fix that. Could someone please answer that?
Yeah.
You're tongue-tied?
Yeah,
Lots
a little
of
bit.
words.
I mean, it is really rough and taking hormones. So let me preface this. Okay. So not that I wanted to be like a tester, but I kind of did want to be a tester of things. So I got through menopause about a year ago, when we all were going through our menopause muscle builder and thinking about hormones. I never had my hormones tested. So I went and got my hormones tested from a naturopath and functional medicine doctor. And so my estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone were all very low. I'm through menopause. That makes sense. My estrogen, my progesterone were in sync. You want your progesterone to be 10% of your estradiol. I think that's your E2 estrogen, and that because you don't want to be estrogen dominant. Estrogen dominant can lead to a lot of problems. So they were in the right range in terms of percentages, but they were just all very low. So I decided I would try some of the bioidentical hormones for a couple of reasons. My hair was thinning. I was really noticing that. My sleep, I had thought, if I could just get my sleep a little better, that would be great. And I was getting horrible, horrible headaches from drinking wine. Now I know what you'd say is, well, Chris, just stop drinking wine. That's a really good option, one that I haven't chosen yet. And I'm not a big wine drinker, but I mean, I enjoy a glass of wine. It was just really, and I have migraines in my family. It runs in my family. I was getting these horrible, they were migraine-like on my left side. So I decided I would try it. So I have tried the bioidentical hormones. For me, honestly, I'm just going to be super honest. It hasn't made a big difference. I've gotten my blood tested. My levels have gone up a little bit, but again, a little bit. And I personally have not noticed wow, my energy level changed, or wow, my sex drive changed, or wow. And my wine headaches have not gone away. And supposedly progesterone is the thing that should help with that. So for me, I'm not sure it's something I'm going to continue because it hasn't been super beneficial to me. That being said, I've spoken to women who have said, it has been a game changer for them. So it really gets into you have to seek out some medical help if necessary. You have to talk to your friends. You have to try things and see how it works for you. And, so if it is something like Sam and I were talking about a mutual friend that said it changed her life. She was literally in such a bad spot. And once she started with the bioidenticals, it helped. For you are like, no way, I'm not going to do that because you have breast cancer in your family.
I have breast cancer in my family, so that was just always, and I know things are different now than too, but that just was never going to be an option for me. So I kind of just managed as I went.
So now to just mention that too, synthetic hormones back in the day when our moms were younger, that's what they took, and that's what got the bad rap for hormones because it led to studies that showed it increased the risk for breast cancer. It was Premarin and Primpro. I do believe those are off the market. They were made from horse urine. They were synthetic. They mimicked equestrian, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, like I said, but they were not good. You should not be taking synthetic hormones. I don't even think they're on the market anymore. And that's where it got the bad rap.
For sure.
There have been no studies that have shown that natural bioidentical hormones promote breast cancer. However, if I had it in my family, I would not either. So it all becomes personal choice. You have to see what works for you.
And I also think that if it's something bad enough, I never had, nothing was ever bad enough for me to get help for. I felt like
that's kind of how I felt too. Nothing was bad
Yeah.
enough. And like I said, I don't think I'm going to continue because it hasn't made a change in my life, but I have tried it for a year. And you want to go to a compounding pharmacy that you trust. You want to go to a or a functional medicine doctor that you trust. I really don't think that your OB is going to ever talk to you about this or prescribe it. It's something that's just so difficult to get information on, and it's too bad that it is because every female goes through this.
Right. And it could potentially really be a game changer for you.
Yeah. So
how long would you say that your guys' symptoms lasted for?
Again, this is I just feel like there should be girlfriend talk about menopause, just like there is about pregnancy, because I think some women, at least that I know, say, oh, I had symptoms for a year or two. I feel like I had symptoms for 4 years.
Oh I had for sure 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I started out with those night sweats, and they lasted forever, ever, ever, ever.
I feel like they did too, and I did, like, there
I'm
were
having a
certain
little
things, like, I
PSTD right now.
definitely, and I did notice, like, drinking alcohol did, exacerbate it a little bit. And like I said, I'm not a big alcohol drinker, but I do have a glass of wine on the weekends. And I realized when I was having night sweats, like, no, don't.
Oh, interesting.
Try to avoid that. Try to avoid anything that was white flour, sugar, anything causes inflammation is going to exacerbate those kinds of symptoms. So what you put in your mouth so matters during menopause. I cannot tell you enough. You can't just sit back and go, well, it's just my hormones. You've got estrogen and insulin are the two fat storing hormones if they're totally, totally out of whack. So you've got to really take to heart what you're putting in your mouth and what you're doing. And exercise also helps to regulate. You want to regulate blood sugar. At the end of the day, blood sugar regulation is the key to almost all disease. And it plays a huge part in menopause.
Yes.
But the symptoms can literally go on. So for me, it started kind of slow where I was like, I noticed hot flashes, and they were, at first I wasn't even sure they were hot flashes. I'm like, because I'm always cold.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I hot right now? And they literally last 10 seconds to 30 seconds. Like, they're not long, but they feel horrible.
They do, and those are fairly frequent. At least they were for me, and it took me a while to figure out what it was.
Me
at first
too.
I was like, oh, what's going on? And then all of a sudden the big light bulb went off, and then I thought, gosh, I just seem so young to be going through this.
And you were
And then
young.
I did talk to my sister about it at that time. She's like, well, Mom had gone through it already, and she was 42 when she passed away. So
Family
I
history
do think
can
family
maybe
history-
help you a little. But that goes to show you, her mom went through at 42. You went through at 47. I was like 52. There is such a range of ages that you have to just listen to your body. We can't sit here and say 50. That's when it's going to happen.
right.
Like, nobody knows.
But I think if you start getting the symptoms, just be aware of that's probably what's happening, and they could go on for years.
Do you feel some symptoms come back post-menopause when you eat certain things?
They could. I mean, certain foods could bring on potentially hot flashes. But no, I feel like once my hormones regulated, my hot flashes and night sweats all went away.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I still run hot at night. Like, I was always the person that wore like a snowsuit to bed when I was younger. My husband would be like, really? I mean, because I was so cold all the time. And once I hit that perimenopause, started having all my hot flashes and stuff, I stayed hot. Now, like at night, even in the winter, I am hot. Like I
okay.
cannot wear sweats. Like after like 8 p.m., I am so hot. But prior to that, I'm wearing my jacket in the house. Bizarre.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
Especially for you, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like one day, like, it just kind of like hit you, or it, like, slowly, gradually started?
Again, to make all of you feel good, there's no answer.
No.
Like I was saying, some people get hit like a storm. For me, it was slow like you, where I was like, is that a hot flash?
Yeah. And
Is
then when
that-
the night sweats clicked in,
Yeah.
that's when it really was like, okay, this is what this is.
And I felt the same way. The night sweats and the hot flashes were like the loud scream, like,
Yeah.
this is menopause. But
Yeah.
the irritability
right.
was very slow go. Like, all of a sudden I was like, I am so irritable. Like, my fuse got shorter. And I was like, and then I have told this story.
That's a good description. Your fuse got shorter.
Sam has heard this story. So everybody just hang in there. So, we've been teaching classes for a very long time. So I was probably about 50, late 49, 50, probably 50. And I was teaching morning class, 5:30 in the morning. I've been doing it for 25 years. And so my body is used to it. And I would wake up in the morning and I felt like a zombie. Like, I hit this period. I was obviously going through menopause, but I wake up and I go, what is wrong with me? Like, I have no energy. Like, something is wrong with me. I would literally drag myself to the gym for two reasons. Number one, I was responsible for teaching the class. And number two was habit. Remember that word? We always talk about habits that get healthy UTV and consistency. And I would get there and I would literally look out into the sea of people and I would feel like a fake, because I was just like, I literally could barely pick the weights up. I would just go like this and I'd be like, what is wrong with me? And I would just try to be enthusiastic, but I felt so down at that time, because I was like, something is wrong with me. Like, I have no energy. And I was trying to, make sure I was fueling a little bit and getting my electrolytes and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. But it was like a 6-month period. And then all of a sudden, I woke up one day and I was like, I have energy. I feel good. And I was like, wow, my workouts are getting back to feeling better. It was a good 6 months, though, of really feeling like, what is wrong with me?
And I think it's good to hear too that what you're going through, that's normal. You know, like sometimes it can be kind of scary. Like, what is wrong with me? Why, you start like your mind starts to go to all these places. But knowing that that's what happens, I think just mentally, it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and I'm just going to get through it. Like I'm going to make this happen right now.
Right.
You know?
And the things that happen to women, like taking care of your skin, we talked about that earlier about aging, taking care of your hair, like hair thinning is natural. It's natural for men and women as we age. Yes, your hormones went down, but it's just a natural thing that happens. And so you have to start paying attention. Like, okay, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to be more careful with not over bleaching my hair. I'm going to be more mindful of my skin. I'm going to be really mindful of what I'm putting in my mouth. I'm going to exercise more intelligently. And exercise changes with age. I exercise differently now than I did when I was Sam's age. I'm a lot more, have to be more careful with recovery. I'm a tad less hyper about it. Like I'm a little bit more like, you know what? It's all good. I want to get that dose of it, but I don't want to overdo it or get injured. I mean, everything changes.
Yeah. Is there anything that you really had to change? Like you feel like you drastically had to make a huge change during that time?
Anything that you drastically changed?
I don't think so. I think it was just more of my mindset that this is what's happening. And so then I think I was just more conscious of things that I was eating or things that I was doing or making sure that I got my workouts in. I think it just makes you a little bit more aware, but I don't really remember changing anything except for my pajamas every night when I had the night sweats.
I had to change my sleep habits. I had to become more diligent about sleep. I used to be somebody who could drink a cup of coffee, put it on my bedside table, and go to sleep. And you could have come in and played a trumpet in my room, and I wouldn't have heard it. And all of a sudden, like coffee after like 4 p.m, no way. There was no way I was going to go to sleep.
Right.
Noise, and we were talking about this earlier. Like I had to change. Like don't want to have my phone like in my face right before I go to bed. Making a bigger effort to go to bed earlier. Like I was always like one of those people like, I only have to sleep 5 hours a night. I'm totally good. It was like a badge of honor. And now I'm like, oh my God, weight gain has contributed to poor sleep, tiredness, hormonal symptoms, all these things. I started really valuing my sleep. I think that was a big change for me. Because before it was kind of like, whatever, I'll make it through. And now I'm like, I have to get my sleep.
And it still is sleep is, I think, just forever always going to be a constant, once you reach a certain age, wink.
Yeah.
It's just something I am constantly thinking of ways to make it better so I can sleep better. Because I know if I sleep better, my day is better for sure.
And I started noticing when I started measuring my sleep, and this was a long time ago, but the first device that ever came out, it was like a band that you could wear on your arm. Do you remember that band? We all there was a band. It was like,
yeah, like with the heart rate.
Yeah. But it was like also measured your sleep and like your metabolic stuff going on. It was like, I forget, this was over a decade ago, but I put it on or about a decade ago. And I remember it was measuring my sleep and it was telling me how many calories I was burning in the middle of the night. And I was realizing, oh my gosh, I'm burning so many calories sleeping. I mean, so it made me think in my head, like, okay, I can force myself to get out of bed or sleep less, only get 5 hours of sleep and go do a workout, or I can just sleep 2 hours and I'm burning the same calories. Hello, what's your choice? Game changer. So I started realizing like the value of sleep when I started measuring it. And now there are so many devices out there that you can use to measure sleep. And just get more in tune with what your body needs and pay attention to how you feel after a good night's sleep.
Right.
Speaking of that, we have a question. How much sleep do you try and get a night?
Like I said, I used to, that was something that changed with menopause. I used to get like 5 hours of sleep, like 5. And now I try to get 7 to 8, but I bet I'm between 6 to 7.
Yeah, I'm in bed for sure at 9.
You are in bed at 9?
Yeah, that is
good
9
for
o'clock.
you.
I'm in bed now, like lights off probably by 9:30. And then,
impressive.
yeah, I have to. I absolutely have to.
And do you get a full 7 to 8 hours?
And then I'm up a lot. I wake up a lot, but then lately I've been getting back to sleep, which is a huge game changer for me, because before I would wake up and then my mind would start moving and grooving, and then I'd be thinking of all these different things, and then I couldn't get back to sleep. So I am finding that I'm doing my deep breathing, because I find myself getting anxious. Absolutely no reason.
Anxious is a part of aging.
Yeah,
it's a part of aging. We just talked
no
about
reason.
it. Yeah.
No reason for me to be anxious. I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
Why am I feeling this way? But I'm feeling like my breathing has been helping, and then I'm getting back to sleep. So, but I don't sleep through the night. I don't know that I ever will.
So take to heart that sleep is really a big deal, that anxiety is normal. If you're feeling anxiety, you're not abnormal. It's a part of aging. So being aware of it, always the first step of any problem is being aware of the problem.
Right.
Once you're aware of it, you're like, okay, I've got this issue. Now I
Yep.
kind of need to work on it. Magnesium is very helpful for sleep.
Yep.
I started taking magnesium at night so that it would help me sleep. The melatonin for me hasn't really done anything. So many people though say melatonin is a game changer. I tried Calm. It's a drink. I actually do still have it, and it actually kind of helps. It's a little bit of magnesium and some other things.
Oh.
It's a Natural Vitality is the brand, and it's just like a powder that you mix in water, and it helps. But I found that this Organifi Gold just really mellows me out at night. So that's what I drink at night. It's a tea.
A tea.
So, I mean, you have to just realize that it is not black and white at all.
No.
And so, like they say, no pregnancy is the same, no menopause is exactly the same, but talk to your friends, talk to your doctor, talk to your mother, talk to somebody and get some information, because it should not be so elusive where people are like, what's menopause? Like, I cannot believe I was 45 years old going, what's menopause?
No, it's so funny, because I had the exact same experience as that. And I
Right.
do think it's out there more. People are talking about it more, which is amazing. But I think the awareness, like you were said, once you're aware of what exactly is happening to your body, and then you have the tools, you know how you can fix things. And if it gets to the point where you're not fixing it, whether it's mentally or for whatever, then you got to get some help, like don't be afraid to reach out.
Like I said, I'm not trying to make myself a guinea pig, but I literally like a little over a year ago, I was like, okay, so many women are asking about bioidenticals. I want to go take my hormone levels. I want to know what they are. I want to know what the bioidenticals are all about. My hormone levels were very, very low. I started taking them. My levels are up a little bit, but it hasn't changed the way I feel. But I will say I take care of myself. So I wasn't really expecting a huge change, but everybody's DNA is different. So listen to yourself and seek out help if you need it, because you're not alone.
No, you're not alone. And I think it's just super important. Don't let it go too long.
I love this comment, and then I actually have a question, because I have a mother and she is currently going through it, so I actually have a question too. I hear Chris about irritability, and she says she wants to thank her husband for sticking with her through all of that. Did either of you get irritable, and if so, were there things that you did to kind of again, breathe or find ways? Because love my mother, she's going through it, and sometimes she's very irritable, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Give her a break. She's going through this, but did you experience
it?
It
Is. I did. I was just saying that. I got very irritable. My husband, who's the most mellow human in the world,
Yes.
he was like, okay,
Yeah.
what is crawled up you? I
Yeah.
mean, you're just so irritable. So you just have, again, awareness. To me, awareness
Yeah.
of any problem you have is the first step in okay, deep breathing. I was just talking about deep breathing, taking a step back, being a lot of self-talk, okay, I'm being
Yes.
unreasonable.
Yeah.
Apologize. You're being unreasonable. And just saying out loud, okay, I'm sorry. I know I was just unreasonable. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm sorry. That goes a long way.
It does go a long way. And my husband is the same. He's just like Jim. He's just the most laid back guy, and he'd be like, oh boy. And he would just know enough to just step away, it's just best, honey, if you just step away right now. But it does take a lot of self-talk at that point. Okay, what I'm saying is really not practical
or
reasonable.
Right.
And it's okay. Acknowledge it. You're feeling the way you're feeling, of course, but just know that it just gets better.
And do know that strength training is such a big deal, because when it comes to hormone regulation, insulin, cortisol, estrogen, strength training is part of that. The more muscle on your body, the more metabolic tissue you have, the better your blood sugar regulates. Blood sugar is the instigator of so many problems. If you have high blood sugar, you're looking to have a lot of problems in the future and a lot of inflammation. And inflammation, it's like that snowball effect.
Yeah,
Then
the
you have
snowball.
inflammation. Then your hormones get out of whack. Then this happens. Then that happens. So strength training is key. It also keeps you mobile and it also keeps your confidence up. And when you feel capable, you're going to be able to get through a lot more things than when you feel like a, woe is me kind of mentality. But do know that we're all here to listen to each other. So in our private Facebook group, for those of you that are Get Healthy UTV members, it's a place where we can talk. It's a safe place. Like if you have questions, and maybe everyone, can chime in every so often of what they're feeling, because there is nobody who is having the same experience as somebody next to them. But I just know that the more I've talked to my girlfriends, the more I've seeked out help, the more I've spoke with functional medicine doctors, the more podcasts I've listened to. I've listened to a ton of podcasts. You guys know I love Dr. Hyman, and he's had a lot of hormone experts on his podcast, The Doctor's Pharmacy, FARM, instead of PHARM. You just start to at least feel better and know I am not weird.
No,
I
right.
am not
Knowledge
alone.
is power, right?
Yeah.
Like, give yourself the knowledge that you need and know that what you're feeling, everyone has been feeling it as well. And I think, again, talking about it is super, super helpful.
Right. And just being realistic. And, it's
Yeah.
like,
Give
okay,
yourself a little grace.
Patty's having her big birthday. Go, girl.
Okay.
I'm getting there. And you know what? I love working out with Sam, and Sam is the same age as my kids. And you know what? She can do more jumping and things than I can, but I am absolutely inspired by it. I might not be able to do it, but I'm like, look at her go. How
I know.
awesome. And I'm going to do that, as best as I can too. So, just be kind to yourself,
Yes.
be realistic, and understand, as we talked about in the aging segment earlier, that it's not about what you look like, it's about how you feel.
Right.
It's about your mental health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and all of this healthy living stuff helps out with that.
Absolutely.
I know it's time to go, right?
It is,
Was there
yeah.
any last question?
There is no other questions. I think a lot of people are just happy to hear that everyone is going through it. And somebody just dropped a comment in the Facebook, like if you want to talk about it, people would love to hear about it, because you just like to have that community. So.
And can I tell you, I thought of what I was going to say. For those of you who have been with us this whole morning, at the end of the aging, I had a menopause brains moment, and Val was sitting there. I go, I wanted to say something, and then I couldn't remember what it was. I just remembered. I just remembered
right
what
at
it
the
was.
end.
So I'm
What
going
is
to
it?
tell you guys. I know we're 3 minutes over. Let me tell you. So what I was going to say is we were talking about aging. We were talking about what you eat. And I was going to say there is this thing called the blue zones. So the blue zones are areas where people live the longest, the most centurions. People who live to be over 100. And there is a guy, his name is Dan Buettner, and he's actually from the Twin Cities.
Oh.
And he has been studying the blue zones for a very long time. I love following both the blue zones and Dan Buettner on Instagram. And so one of the things that makes up these people who live the longest, guess what?
What?
They eat a cup of beans a day.
Oh my gosh.
They eat a cup of beans a day.
Start eating your
Beans
beans.
are literally the magical fruit. Yes. Magical veggie, whatever. So I told my husband that lately. He's been like, okay, let's make sure we're eating beans. So
No
I just wanted to throw
way.
that tidbit in, that beans are that
Black
healthy.
beans, brown beans.
White beans, garbanzo beans, lentils are in
Okay.
that category.
All right.
So just thought that came to me. Okay, this has been such a fun morning. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. Fall back. Do not forget to fall
that's
back.
right.
If you live in Arizona or Hawaii,
You're good.
stay there. If you live anywhere else, fall back. We will be here at 8 a.m. Central Time, the new Central Time. Tomorrow is a fun day. We have some really great recovery workouts.
Yes.
Mobility
Yep. Shannon has a hit, and then I have a mobility, and then we have
and
bar.
yoga. Bar
Oh my
and
gosh.
yoga, and I'm going to be leading the yoga by being your coach. I will not be doing the yoga. I'll be coaching you through it. So I'm looking forward to that. Patty, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
happy
having
early
me.
birthday.
Thank you.
You guys are going to have to remember to remind her happy birthday. Thanks to all of you who have participated. Day one was a
Bye-bye.
success. We will see you tomorrow. Put the comments in. Put comments in the Facebook group. We can't wait to talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.